Yes, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. My name is Mustafa, and our honorable guest today is Confidence.
Hello,
Um,
Mustafa.
Welcome to today's session. Um,
Thank you.
he will be walking us through building your own smart home and a smart lab, and we will be learning a lot of things from this brilliant engineer. Um, Confidence has been playing with smart home automation for a while. He understands connectivity protocols and video assistance. In today's session, he's going to be showing us some of his knowledge and his experiences, and we may get to learn how to pick the best product, setting up smart home, um, etc. like that. Um, Hello, Confidence. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me, Mustafa. How's your day going?
It's been good. Thank you once again for joining this session. The Learn 18 series um, is for us to learn something interesting from our guest audience and our guest speaker. And while they may do some presentation, if the audiences have questions for them, they will throw it in the chat session, and we will bring it up during the live program. Yeah, um,
Yes.
let's see how that goes. Okay, what do you have for us, Confidence? I can't wait to get into this.
All right. So while I do not have a slide deck, I'll just need to have a conversation around my setup, what I do, and can also share some recommendations if someone is interested in also having a similar setup for themselves.
All right. So before we just start, can you just introduce yourself to our audience so they know whom you are?
Okay, so my name is Confidence, of course, and I am a software engineer and YouTuber. I do a lot of software stuff, front end, back end, and everything in between. Right now, I'm learning Rust, and I'm learning it because everybody has just been talking about it, and I don't know anything about Rust. So I was just like, let me learn Rust. And so far, it has been really similar to C++. Something nice that I am learning from Rust is that Rust has this concept of implicit returns. It means you can return the last statement in a block or a scope if you don't have the semicolon added to it, which is really nice. So it means you don't have to always write a return statement, and it means that you can create a variable that performs computations in a block and just return the last value from that block. So it's a really nice feature. I'm still learning Rust, like I'm still with the basics. I'm reading the docs to learn it. So it's still, I know
I
I
want
had
to,
growth. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, when you mention implicit return, I'm familiar with implicit and explicit return in JavaScript. I know if you don't return anything, it returns null, and then if you return, then it will return the value that you are returning. Is this any familiar with the Rust idea?
So implicit returns in JavaScript only work with arrow functions. If you have an expression and that expression evaluates, if you have a statement, if you have an expression that evaluates to something, not a statement, an expression that evaluates to something and has a result at the end of it. If you use an arrow function, you don't really have to write return. If it's a one-line arrow function, you don't have to write the return statement because that would implicitly return. That's how
Yeah,
it's done in JavaScript. But if it is a multi-line function, even if it's an arrow function, you still have to write return at the end of it.
return.
But the
Yes, yes,
beauty of
yes.
Rust is that you can also have multi-line, but the last but Rust is automatically going to return the last expression at the end of that block if you do not have a semicolon in it. So it's just really nice. It means you have less things to type and you just really have to focus about writing your logic. So it's a nice feature that I think will save me some typing. I don't have to type return every time, and I like that. That's why I like arrow function. Yeah, so
Okay.
It's a good one.
Interesting. You say it looks very much like C, C++. Then,
Oh, no, no, no. So for syntax, it feels like Python syntax, but its power is in the level of C, C++, because
oh,
I
okay,
was
on
trying
that.
a couple of things. Yeah, it was really, really fast. The way it works is that you compile it to a binary object, and that is what you can run. So while the Python looks like, while this syntax looks like Python, you actually have to compile it first before you can actually go to run it. So that's the similarity or parallel I'll draw between Python, Rust, and C++.
Hmm, nice. I was yep, the team must be doing something for it to have all this pause that it's getting.
Oh
All
yeah, yeah.
right.
If you have the time to, I would highly encourage you just learn it, read the docs, and then it's a fun language.
All right. Let's see how that goes. Okay. Thank you for sharing something you are learning. Okay, let's learn about your workspace. What does it look like?
For my workspace, right now my workspace has changed a lot, but I think I have one from December. I have a picture from December I can share. So let me share my screen and show it to you. Let's share my screen. Share screen. Use operating system allow. Single window. StreamYard. Share. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen. You can, I think.
Yeah, it's up.
So I wrote a blog in, I think, early January about my workspace in December. So this is my blog, confidence.sh, and this is one of the articles I have. I have a picture of my workspace before now. My workspace has changed a bit. So I wanted to, let's open this in a new tab. So I wanted to work on upgrading my workspace. I wanted to do this blog before actually doing the upgrade. So as of December, this is a picture of my workspace. This is how it looks like. I have a Dell monitor, I have a work Mac, I have a personal laptop, which I'm using for this call right now, an X1 Carbon, and I have a mouse, keyboard, and mic. But everything here has changed. So for the mic, I'm using an analog mic. It's a Shure mic, and I need to use a DAC to convert those signals into digital signals that my laptop can understand. So I have a new mic, a DAC, I have a Stream Deck, which I'm yet to set up. What else is new here? Yeah, I think that's all. Oh, I also have a stand for a camera. That's another thing I have behind my monitor. I don't have a picture now, but maybe I'll do another article soon so that I can share it with you.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what that looks like. All right. So we learn about your setup. Okay. So um, let's get right into the entire concept of having an home lab and what it looks like. Can you give us an intro into it?
Well, that intro is going to be very, very long because there's so much you can do with a home lab. So for my own home lab, I use it to do a lot to run my smart home automation platform. I use it to self-host a lot of services I have running locally. But I would say it's not going to work if you do not actually have a good hardware to run everything on. So first step is setting up a hardware. My home lab is actually behind me. If you can see this shelf behind me, that is where all of the stuff I have on my home lab is. Don't worry, I'll share. Okay, okay, yeah. This shelf behind me is where all of my networking devices and computers are. Let me share a better picture of it so that you can see it. Let me share my screen one more time. All right. Share screen, StreamYard, share. Let me know if you are able to see my screen. Are you
Yeah.
able to see my screen? Okay, okay.
Yes.
So I have this picture of the shelf behind me, and this is my home lab. Everything you see behind me is here on the shelf. Let's see how. All right, yeah, this is it. So my services run on two Raspberry Pis. This is my main Raspberry Pi that has a bunch of the services I host locally. Then I also have a Raspberry Pi interface case that runs my NAS. So this case is a little bit bigger than the one up here because it contains all of the drives. I have a 5 terabytes drive setup inside of this NAS, all SSDs. So this is for storage. This is for everything else that is not storage. And I have two DNS servers running on each of these. So the way I have it set up is that maybe we'll take a look at a better picture so that you can see it from top down. So this is the Raspberry Pi, the main Pi. This is the NAS, and everything is connected to my router. Uh, then my router also gives connection to other devices that are in my home network through this black router. And I have a secondary router, which is this small one right here. So that's like a quick overview of the setup. And of course, this is my ISP router. Um, I did not want to mention any brand. That's why I have this blacked out. But I have my ISP router, and it's set up in such a way that I can plug and I can unplug this one and plug in a new router without disturbing devices connected on my network. So I have my own network, then I have my network connected to the internet. And it could be any internet provider, but my own network is fully managed using all of the devices that are here on this shelf. Yeah, so that's a quick look at it.
All right, that seems. So why go through the stress?
Okay. First thing is that one, for the home lab setup, one, I'm very lazy, right? We're engineers, we're lazy people. If we can do something once and never do it again, we would like to do that. So I did not want to I did not want to keep doing things manually. I wanted a way to automate my entire setup, and this provided that option for me. So it means that, for example, if I walk into a room, I do not have to find a switch. It is going to automatically turn on the lights because my devices are set up in such a way that they know when I'm in a room, and then they can automatically come on. So I'm lazy, I want to automate things, and I don't like stress. So that's reason one. Second reason is that really setting up something like this is actually fun because you get to learn a lot. This this is like programming, but you now have to set up the hardware side of things as well. There's a huge software setup. I can share a link to an article I wrote about it. You have to set up a lot of software. It requires a lot of technical knowledge. But the beauty of it is that now you have real devices, like physical devices that you need to play with. So for example, if I go back to sharing my screen, let's see. Um, Okay, maybe I'll just leave this screen sharing on and you can spotlight it whenever you need to. Um, so StreamYard share. Oh no, I'm sharing the wrong screen. So let's stop sharing. I'm sharing again. So screen share. All right, allow. Mm, StreamYard. All right, so I think you can bring this up now. Okay, so you take a look at some of the devices I have here. It was my first time of actually setting up these devices. For example, this little radio that you see here, I don't know if you can have it. Okay, so this is the front view. It's just an antenna. This is the top view of the device. It's a Zigbee router, and it is a new kind of network for smart home devices. So everybody knows Wi-Fi. Everybody's phone has a Wi-Fi antenna, and they can connect to other devices using it. This is a Wi-Fi device. Everybody knows about Bluetooth as well. There is another protocol that is called Zigbee, and this is the device that coordinates it. It's for low energy devices and sensors that are not connected directly to power. Sensors that run on batteries can connect to this and last years on battery power connected to a device using this protocol. So I had to learn all of these new things, new devices, new terminologies when building my home network. So it's fun, and I really learned a lot. That was the second reason I did my setup. Yeah, it was really fun to do. And of course, you actually get to learn a lot. So before now, I've been an engineer for a long time. I mean, before doing my own home network. I think I can stop sharing my screen. Can you pause the spotlight? All right. Yeah. So before now, I was already working as an engineer, but there are certain things you just would not know about if you're a front-end engineer, for example. So things like networking, things like DNS, things like how the internet really, really, really works. I got to learn about all of these things from setting up my own home network. So you have to set up a DHCP server so that your network is separate from the internet and you have control over your own local network. You have to set up DNS servers. You have to know a lot about Linux. If you know about Linux, that's good. This is just going to further your knowledge about Linux and how computers actually work. You have to also know about networking in Docker. So Docker is actually, or containerization is actually a really, really complex topic. Now you'll be getting into a layer of managing other people's containers. Many people who are familiar with Docker know how to set up, how to containerize their own applications. Now you have to learn how to manage other people's containers and make it play nicely inside of your own network. And you also have to learn about automation. For example, I use Ansible to back up my home server and also to automate the installation of the apps and tools I use to run my home network. So these are some of the things that you might not get to experience if you haven't done something like this. So it's one good reason to actually go in and try this. And then you get to realize that the entire internet is just someone else's computer, because everything you actually have on the real internet is what I have behind me, only on a small scale. So you get to have your own piece of the internet and run it locally um, in your house. So yeah, it's been a really nice learning experience for me. It's one other reason why I did it.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. I want to digress a bit. We have heard of the Starlink and the supposed faster internet is providing. Are you looking to set up yours?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that. Can you come again?
Starlink by
Yeah.
what's this guy's name?
By Elon Musk, one of
SpaceX, yeah.
SpaceX, one of his startups. Yes, yes, I have.
Yeah. So are you looking to set it up to boost your power internet? How would that change what you currently have?
Uh yes, when it becomes available, yes, because I actually checked. So if you go to their website, they have places where they are currently available, giving services in, and they don't currently have service for Nigeria as at the last time I checked. So yes, I was interested in it. I actually purchased a subscription and did installation from a different satellite company, but it turned out that their service was not so good, and I went to a regular GSM uh, internet service company. So yes, when it becomes available, and it also depends on the price, right? Because if it's too expensive, I cannot afford it for my own network, then there's no point. But if the price is good, if the internet speed is good, then for sure it's something I can do. And the beauty is that depending on how you have your network set up, for me, I just have to swap an internet cable to connect to the Starlink router whenever I have it, and I'm good to go. So I just need to change one cable and nothing else in my home, in my own home network setup, and I'll try it whenever it becomes available. Yeah.
All right. I think that's interesting. Okay, let's get back to the home network. So one important factor in setting up a network like that is security, and having people eavesdrop into your network or people testing their skills on your network. So how have you in any way answered for that.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Can you bring up my screen and I'll show you something?
All right.
Okay, so still on my blog, I'm just going to go to the list of blogs because I think I wrote this a while back. Let's see, blog. Okay, it's here. Okay, okay. So while I was doing an upgrade of my hardware I have in my house, I wrote this article to explain why I'm doing the upgrade and what devices I'll be getting. It's an interesting article, and if you're into self-hosting and stuff like that, you can go check it out. This was my previous setup. Everything was in the closet. Now it's on the shelf, which actually has better air control. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that I'd like to show you this image. I'm just going to open it in a new tab to talk a little bit about things I have put into consideration when it comes to security. So, like I was mentioning, in my home network setup or in any home network setup, this is an ideal setup you would want to have. You would want the internet, which is one, everything above this line. You can see we have a line here. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So everything that's above this line is the internet. Everything above this line, this entire area is the internet. You would want the internet to be separate from your actual home lab, which is all of the devices you see here. So this is my ISP router, for example. It's the device that brings internet to my home network. It's completely separate. It runs on a different IP address range. So if someone is able to figure out how to access my device, which is not possible because I don't have my services exposed to the internet. I have some of them, but not everything exposed to the internet. If someone is able to figure out how to access it, you're just going to meet a dead end wall here because the IP address range of my ISP router is different from everything I have on my local network. So that is why I have an ISP router, then I have a local router. My local router is this black device. If you can see this,
Yeah.
this little black device here, it's an Intel mini PC that has 2.5 gigabit networking. So I went for this device and it manages my entire home network. So being able to isolate the internet first from my local network is one layer of security I have implemented. So you just have this firewall between my devices and the internet, one layer of security. Then something else I have also done is I don't have many of my services exposed to the internet. I have some of them, some really, really critical services. For example, I talked about having a network storage inside of this case right here. I have a network storage here and it is exposed to the internet, but only I know my URL and everything is secure because you have to log in first to be able to access this device. So exposing these devices, I'm exposing these services individually. I don't have um, my entire server exposed. I don't have everything on this server exposed. I only have certain services running inside of isolated Docker containers exposed. For example, like I was mentioning, I have the service that is managing the devices or the drives connected to this NAS exposed. I just have that container exposed. So if, for example, you have access, let's say you're so good, you're able to have access to my NAS software, you're only just going to be able to perform as much damage as you can within the container that is running that software. And you would not actually have access to the main hardware that is running the container because I only have certain services running inside of containers exposed. So that is something else I'm also doing to um, to mitigate security concerns when it comes to self-hosting. So one, I have my internet separate from my home network using the firewall my local router is providing. Two, I do not actually have everything on my home network exposed to the internet. I'm only exposing certain services. And this actually just makes things more secure. So that's what I have for security concerns right now. I haven't had an incident. Actually, I have some of my services running right now in production in other apps that are live, but I haven't had a security incident so far. And if it happens, I'll let you know how it goes.
Noted. Thank you very much. Um, so it makes sense that you have all this set up, and so can you talk more about some of the like the automations you have? You mentioned how you have how if you enter the room, everything lights up and they sense you are in the room and they come alive. Can you talk more about some other stuff you have automated and how they work together?
Okay. So I still have my screen sharing on.
Yeah.
I'm just going
Okay.
to. Is it up now? All
Yeah.
right. All right, it's up. So I'm just going to show you the service I use for automating my devices, and we can talk through it. So this is all right. So it's called Home Assistant, and as you can see, I'm visiting it on a local domain that is not real. This is not a real domain. Home Assistant.py is not a real domain. It doesn't exist on the internet, the outside internet. But within my home network, it exists and it's a real domain here. So you can see some of the devices I have here. My dashboard is a bit messed up. Let's see. It's supposed to bring device. Okay. Now this is better arranged. Yeah, we can see everything in one view. So you can see some of the devices I have here. I have lights, as you can see. I walk into a room. I'm in the office, for example. You can see this. I have a bunch of lights turned on in the office right now. So, for example, I can turn off these lights, and you can see that my studio lights are off. I can turn them on, turn them off from this software using my phone or through the automations I have set up. I have a bunch of sensors inside of the office itself that you can't see because it's not displayed right here on the dashboard. So for example, if I walk into the office, I have a door sensor, a contact sensor on the door that detects that the door is open and someone is trying to walk in. Let us turn on the light so that that person is going to be able to see things in the room. That's one automation. Then right below my monitor, I have a presence sensor that figures out if there is someone inside of the office. The reason why I have this is I want to be able to turn off everything in the office the moment I walk out. So once that device figures out that there's no one inside of the office, it's just going to automatically turn off everything in the office to save power. So that's one other automation. Then I have an automation for my vacuum robots, so that in the morning when I wake up, it's just going to automatically clean up the living room area and other open areas that I want it to clean up. So I have a couple of those automations, and everything is handled locally on my home server using this software called Home Assistant. I've made a few videos about it on my YouTube channel, so if you're interested in seeing how it's set up, how it works, you can go check it out on YouTube. And of course, I can control all of these devices using my voice. So I have a bunch of Google Assistant devices, Google Nest Minis everywhere, so that I can say, okay, the keyword, tell it do this to that device. For example, turn on the fan, and it's going to turn on the office fan, which is this device right here. So everything is controlled locally. Then I have Google Assistant integrated into Home Assistant so that I can talk to my Google enabled devices and control some of these devices I have on my home network.
Okay, that's this is pretty robust. So one question that pops up to my head as I've seen this setup now is how do you power this? What is powering this?
So for hardware, it is powered by the devices you just saw. I have a Raspberry. Everything is running on a Raspberry Pi. Funny enough, people sometimes underestimate the power of Raspberry Pi. It's actually a pretty robust device. So I have two Pis. Everything runs on the Pis. I have network for electrical power, um, because I know that we do not have constant power supply. I actually generates my own power. So I have a bunch of solar panels and an inverter and batteries to make sure that these devices are on and running at all times. So one, while trying to choose my hardware, if you go through that Gigabit project blog, I was specific, or I consciously only chose devices that are low power and also very powerful. Like, they can get the work done, but they don't consume so much power, because I know that these devices will be on 24/7. So I had that taken care of. Then I also made sure way beforehand that I had constant power supply in my house, so that these devices can always be turned on, and the power situation in my house is independent of the supply I get from the grid. So that's how I handled my power problems.
Yeah. Okay. I think that settles it, because I was wondering how this it was able to keep up with everything. Okay. So for the average person that wants to set up this, um, what will you say would be the first step to setting up any of this? What would you say would be the first direction to go?
Okay, I would say that the obvious thing is, one, you need to have constant power supply. That's just it. If you do not have constant power supply, it's not going to work. So if you live in a place that has good power supply from the grid, you're okay. You don't really have to worry about it. But if you live in a place with not so good power supply like I do, you might need to set up your own backup supply. And once you do, you should be able to get on with the other steps. So first, constant power supply, and you should be good to go. The other thing you need is a bunch of hardware devices. So if this is your first time building a network like this, or building a setup like this, you need to do a lot of research to find out what device would be best for what you want to accomplish. So for me, I'm doing a bunch of home automation things. I'm also hosting a bunch of services, like we talked about the storage drive. I'm hosting a bunch of services. That's just what I want to do for my network. I don't want to game on those devices. Like, I don't want to do remote gaming on those devices, or I do not want it to be used for video editing, because that hardware is not going to be powerful enough. So I was able to buy or search for devices that meet my requirements. And this is something, of course, that would be different from person to person. So you need to do a lot of research on your end to figure out what you want. And once you have that, you'll be good to go. So you need to get a lot of devices first for um, the server itself, the server setup itself, the server device, your router, your wireless access point, your networking devices is just one aspect of it. Then you also need to get smart devices. Your lights, for example, needs to be smart. If you don't have smart lights, you might want to buy smart switches, for example. You might also want to get smart sockets, for example, smart fans, for example. So these are hardware choices you will need to make upfront, and make sure that they work well with the setup you want. Then the third thing I would say that one is going to need is constant internet. In addition to having constant power supply, you need to have constant internet, because if your internet goes down or is a bit flaky, it means that for services you have exposed to the internet, for example, I have my storage exposed to the internet, it means there'll be times I will not be able to access it from outside my home network. So you need to make sure you have constant internet. Uh, it might be a recurring monthly cost, but it's worth it. And I would say the fourth thing you will need is basic software skills. First, you need to know how computers work. You need basic understanding of how the internet works, because what we are doing essentially is replicating the internet inside of your house. That's exactly what you're going to be doing. So you need to have a basic understanding of how the internet works. You need to know how to use Linux, the Linux command line, because some of these servers you will be setting up are going to be headless. It means you will not have a display connected to it, just like you have on your laptop. You have a display and you'll be able to see things. These are devices you will need to connect to by SSH and manage remotely. Like, I don't have any display behind me. So you need to know how to use the Linux command line. That is something, if you have basic knowledge for, it's good. It's something you would always keep improving on. But these are basic software skills that you need. And I think the most important thing you need is the interest in learning, because this is really hard. There have been days whereby, not days, actually weekends and weeks where I nuked or deleted my entire home network. I did not have internet in my house for a week, for example, because I wrongly configured one device on my network. So things happen. Like, it's stressful. If you haven't done this before, there's a lot you have to learn. You have to learn the software side of things. You have to learn the hardware side of things, and you are learning all of this simultaneously. So if you do not have interest in learning, it's just not going to work. So this is something that you have to be interested in. Like, interest, I think, is the biggest factor or biggest thing you need when considering setting up something like this.
Yes, thank you very much. We're getting a couple of questions from people. So let me just ask one. Leonard is asking that can you power mechanical devices like opening of gates, etc. with your house house setup?
Yes, I can, but I don't have these devices. I can. I don't have these devices. The, for mechanical
Do you?
devices, the one thing I was looking at doing is setting up a smart door lock so that I don't have to use my key to open my doors. I can just have it automatically open once I approach the door. So that is something I want to do. So I can do it. I have the network hardware set up for it, but I do not have any devices, mechanical device. Oh, I have a fan. A fan is a mechanical device, right? So yeah, I actually have a mechanical device. It's a fan. But the next thing I'll be doing with this setup is door locks. I also have a vacuum robot, a smart vacuum robot. I don't have any pictures of it online yet because I got it recently and I'm still doing the setup process. But what it does is that it's connected to my network. It knows the layout of my apartment, and it's able to clean a specific area, a specific room if I want it to. So that's also a mechanical device I have set up. I can deploy it, tell it to vacuum and mop a room, and it's just going to be able to do that. So yes, it's possible. I have a few devices, and I can be adding more. I actually have the headroom to add more in the future.
Cool. I think Pious. Okay, let's go with Adjosa first. Adjosa was asking about how you manage security breach, which is a question we discussed earlier. So Adjosa, I would advise you come back to this video and check out. I think about 15 minutes into the conversation, you will see where he discussed and showed the image of his security setup for his smart devices at home, right? Okay. Pius is asking the list of devices that is needed to set up this. So Pius again, actually, the best thing is he wrote an article. I will share this article in this chat session. Um, that
I'm
is
giving
like
it
the
to
most
you right now.
comprehensive way to to find all the list of address that you want. He has already shared this with us previously. He has written this to to the to the benefit of the internet. So yeah, I think this has been helpful. Okay,
So
confidence. Do you
yeah,
have?
yeah. I was going to say I sent a link to the chat so you can
Okay.
share with uh, whoever would
Oh,
need
okay.
it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've seen it. I think I've also shared. Yeah, I've sent it to. So I think they have it there. All right. So I think we are coming up to the 45-minute mark. Do you have anything you would like to add before we wrap up for today, or something you would like to share? Yeah.
Not really. For my home setup, I think the next thing I want to do is I want to see how much I can push it, right? Because if you have these devices that are running every time and you are not maxing them out to their limits, then you're not really actually making use of these devices to the fullest capacity. So I want to see how much I can push it. The reason I upgraded my home network is so that I have faster internet, faster local internet, and I can actually do a lot more with these devices wirelessly. So one of the things, one of the services I host is a a streaming platform like Netflix. Everybody knows Netflix. You go search for movies
Yeah.
and you're able to stream. So I host a service like that, but the previous hardware setup I had could not stream 4K files. So the idea behind doing a network upgrade is so that I'm able to stream 4K files, and now I'm able to do that without any hitch on my TV. So what I'm looking at doing in the coming weeks is to be able to edit videos remotely using my home network or my home lab as the storage. So if you're editing videos or if you've ever done content creation, your your video footage usually is on your computer and you're able to edit it. But if you have a good network, you can actually have those files stored on a different device and still be able to edit it using a file sharing software. You can use Samba or whatever you fancy. So I think I have the hardware setup for it. I just need to figure out the software side and see if that will work. So that will be the next thing I'll be able to do. So I want to see how far I can push this network and see how it goes. And of course, also share my experience with others, because really there's no point exploring all of these things if you keep it to yourself. There's you actually you're actually more happy when you share some of these experiences with people, because there are other people who are interested in things like this. There are geeks like us who are interested in things like this. So while I experience or experiment all of these things locally, I'm also going to be sharing it in the community. So you can go follow me on Twitter. My username is at Mega Confidence, and I'll be happy to connect to you on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm going to share your handle shortly. Pius, I think Pius is surprised about your setup. He's asking if your Raspberry Pi is a Connect text. I've been out of the Raspberry Pi for a while.
One last
Yes?
question: is the Raspberry Pi connected? I don't know what that means. Connected to your local server. Like, what's okay? So he
Yeah.
verifies, and he says connected to your local server. Like, okay, what role does my Raspberry Pi play? Um, it's doing a lot. So let me do one last screen share, and I'll show you what I have on my network. I would not show you what I have on my actual network so that I don't run into security issues. But I'll show you something that is a proxy into what I actually have on my network. So let me go. You can actually start the screen sharing. I'm going to
Okay.
my GitHub profile. I have all of my devices backed up in Git. So I'm going to be able to just go to a GitHub profile and show you some of the services I have. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, definitely.
All right. So I have this repo called home server. It's private because I have a lot of sensitive data in it. I mean, my entire network setup with all of the databases, all of the logs, everything is actually committed to Git. So I can't make it public because my keys, my logs, my databases that the Docker containers actually run off from, the volumes, the actual hardware volumes are connected to Git. So these are the services I run locally. So my Pi, the main Raspberry Pi runs Pi-hole. Actually, both Raspberry Pis run Pi-hole for DNS. It's the reason why I'm able to type in a fake domain like homeassistant.py, and it actually returns a real service. So I run Pi-hole to run a custom domain, to block ads on my network and a lot of stuff. Let's actually start from the first. I run AppSmith. So I work at AppSmith. It's a local platform for building internal tools. I run an enterprise version of AppSmith locally. I run a software called File Browser. It's what I use for my NAS service. I run a local version of Firefox, which helps me VPN into my local network whenever I'm outside. So I run a browser inside of my browser, if that makes sense. Then Home Assistant is what you've seen. I run Homer. It's a dashboard software to display devices or services I have on my local network that has a GUI. So I can quickly show this to you. So this is going to be pi.local. Yeah, so this is Homer, and these are the GUI services I have locally. This Homer is just a dashboard. It's just a dashboard software, and these are some of the services I have. It's not up to date because I don't have Firefox here, But since I have domains for everything, I really don't use Homer as much as I did when I started out. I use Jellyfin. It's the Netflix alternative, self-hosted Netflix alternative. Monica for managing relationships. You have Net Data for monitoring your hardware, to check the bandwidth, to check CPU usage, memory usage, all of that stuff. Nginx for proxying and reverse proxying. Photo Prism for backing up my photos. Pahio, we already talked about this. Plausible for analytics. Portainer for managing my Docker services. Samba for network um, network storage sharing. You also have Snapdrop for sending devices, for sharing files across devices. Syncing for backing up all of my data in other devices to my NAS. I also have a remote terminal. I also have transmission. Transmission is popular. Then in utils folder, I have services for managing, auto updating the containers my services are running on, and also proxying the services I want exposed to the internet. So that's what I have in the utils folder. So this is like a summary of what I have on my home network.
Oh, wow. That's really comprehensive and a lot of work. So, final question, I think, is how long have you been doing this? How long have you been been running on this?
Um,
Leonard.
okay, so I would say about 2 years now, 2 years give or take. It actually started as a small project. The first smart device I bought was actually a light bulb, just one bulb. And you connect it to your Wi-Fi router, your regular Wi-Fi router, and you'll be able to control it through Google Home. You can change the color, you can tell it to turn on and off. It was just one bulb I bought to start that got me into the entire rabbit hole. So yeah, it started with a bulb, and I've been doing it for like 2 years now, give or take.
All right.
So, what I would just like to close off with is that you really do not have to start by buying all of the devices you saw. If you're interested in this, or if you're not so sure and would like to give it a try, just go buy a smart bulb and you can connect it to whatever device you have right now and play around with it and see if this is something you can continue with. So it can start as small as just buying a smart bulb, which is not expensive at all. So give it a try, buy a bulb, play with it, see what you can do with it, and then you can determine if this is something you would want to expand on.
All right. Thank you very much, Confidence. It's been a pleasure having you share your knowledge and experience and your home network with us. I can't thank you enough for your time and expertise.
Thanks
Any
for having
final
me, Mustafa.
words? Any final words before we
Uh,
close for today?
I already gave the final words, but let me just say again, go ahead with it. It's interesting. Building a smart home and running your own home lab is interesting, but it can start with a device as simple as just one light bulb. So give it a try whenever you can. And if you have any issues, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. And of course, I'll be sharing my experience on Twitter, on videos on my YouTube channel. So go check them out if this is something you're into.
Yes, thank you very much, Confidence. It's nice being here. I am sharing links to Confidence channel and Twitter for anyone who is interested. Kindly visit these places. They are um, treasure troves. They have a lot of information and knowledge about all these things he's talking about. Please find them in the comment section. You also find them in the description after this session is over. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. It's been nice having you here. Hopefully, we'll have another session for next month with another person that would come to share their knowledge and experience with us. Bye for now, everyone.
All right. Bye bye. Thanks, Mustafa. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you.